What is good? Osiris here, stuck in the middle. And I've watched a lot of this Kim Potter case. The jury is in deliberations as I'm recording this. So I just want to talk about the general issue at hand. In my layman opinion, I've spent a lot of time watching the trial on Rekieta Law. State Attorney Erin Eldridge, she implied that a cop simply having a gun was reckless. She also stated that if anyone saved Sergeant Johnson's life, Sergeant Johnson is the cop that came on the front passenger side who tried to stop Daunte Wright from leaving. The state argued that Daunte Wright, if anyone, saved his life more than Kim Potter.
The defendant didn't save Sergeant Johnson's life. Both Elena Albrecht Payton and Sergeant Johnson were in the line of fire. If anyone saved Sergeant Johnson's life, it was Daunte Wright when he took a bullet to the chest.
Two bizarre moments there, and it shows you that, to me, this is going to be a struggle. What happened in the case, just generally speaking, if you remember, Kate Wright, the mother of Daunte Wright, and God bless her, sad to see her son go, especially under these terms. But I'm going to talk about it legally here. Kate Wright told the media that her kid was stopped because he had an air freshener hanging from his rearview mirror. That's not true. Kim Potter and an officer that she was training, who really was bad, he was in training though, pulled Wright over for an expired registration tag. And the air freshener was noticed after he was pulled over for the expired registration. The officers during the stop determined that Daunte Wright had an outstanding gross misdemeanor warrant. And when they told him, or they said, hey, you've got a warrant, that's when he fled. So the cop that was in training made mistakes. He didn't hem Daunte Wright up against the car so he couldn't flee. He left the door open and made a lot of mistakes. But after Daunte Wright escaped this cop, he got in the car, was going to drive away, and that's when Kim Potter said taser, 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 but she actually had her gun. So it was shocking to see, and terrible mistake, and she should have lost her job. She resigned, but then shot him and killed him. So this is my legal take on the case, as if I were a member of the jury. Up above is a link to my heartfelt reaction at the time. There's two charges here. Let me start with the second-degree manslaughter. This was the first charge that was brought. To get a conviction on this charge, and this is just me doing research, I'm not a lawyer. To get a conviction on this charge, prosecutors will have to prove that Potter was not only negligent and reckless, but that she consciously disregarded the risk of death of great bodily harm. When she accidentally mistook her taser or her gun for a taser, that's not a conscious disregard. That was a subconscious. That was an accident. There is no legal recourse under either of these charges for that. So that second-degree manslaughter charge, I don't think it has a chance. And it's kind of ironic because that's the lesser charge. Later, they brought the first-degree charge. To get a conviction on this charge, from my research, prosecutors will have to prove that Potter recklessly handled her firearm and used such force that it predictably would have caused Wright great bodily harm or death. So this is tough as well. And I know when I saw it, I was like, I didn't know the law or anything. I had not researched it. I was like, man, she's got to go away. She's done, like criminally. And now I'm reading it and seeing the case. I saw probably 75% of the case. I saw a good amount of it. I'm pretty comfortable talking about it through Rekieta Law. Thank goodness for that stream. But it doesn't look like she should be convicted, in my opinion. I'm not going to make any predictions about the jury. I will say it's going to be difficult. I think there's only one charge that could happen here, and I think that's the first-degree manslaughter. That's the only possible charge that I see happening. But if she didn't believe that she had a gun in her hand, then that's not a conscious attempt to use a deadly force. The other problem is She thought she had a taser, so she thought she was using a taser. The state did not prove beyond a reasonable doubt to me that using a taser was inappropriate force. So that doesn't fly. If you watch the trial, let me know. Let me know what your thoughts are. If you think that the taser was say she used a gun, but if you think her using a taser in that situation where Daunte Wright was about to drive off, if you think that was unjustified, then if the jury thinks that, then they will convict on that first-degree murder manslaughter charge. I think a lot of it comes down to, is this use of force justified? To me, the use of the force of the taser or the gun is justified. Let's say, forget she even said taser, because we wouldn't have known what's in her head. Let's forget she mistook it for a taser and she actually wanted to shoot him. I think she would have been justified. So for me, it's a no. It would be, from watching the trial, hearing the judge instructions, it would be impossible, I think, to convince me as a juror to convince her on either one of these charges. That doesn't mean what she did was right. Doesn't mean it wasn't stupid. I don't want to say stupid, but it was a serious mistake. Doesn't mean that the city, won't be judged liable civilly on a civil suit, having to pay out money. I don't know about the civil part. I don't really care. I care more about the criminal part of it. I don't see the criminal part here. There's no recourse under the law just to say it was a mistake. Either the use of force was justified or it's not. And she wasn't reckless with her firearm, in my opinion, but the state tried to make that case. Like, for example, if you're reckless with the gun, it would be like speeding more than 20 miles over the speed limit. Like, you're going over 20 miles an hour. You know that there's a there's a chance of an issue there. Driving drunk, that's a reckless act. She wasn't. So if Kim Potter went to work drunk, then that would have been a wrap. But that's not the case. So it's this mens rea. It's like, what's her mental state? And I believe the way the judge described it is, would this be reasonable use of force by any average officer? So these cases, the McMichaels case, the Rittenhouse case, there's a lot of murky stuff here. And I know this case became popular because of race. And obviously, if Daunte Wright was white, no, it wouldn't even be. I wouldn't do the video. Nobody would care because it wouldn't spark this racial issue that we have in our country. But just because I think Kim Potter isn't guilty criminally doesn't mean I don't have heartfelt emotion about it being a sad death. And I think people confuse these things. They say, whoa, you think that Kim Potter should get off criminally? You must be this evil-hearted person. No, I'm just looking at the law. Logic puts you in a whole different realm right now, though. Let me end with this. Here's some other cases that I looked up here. In a well-known case, a transit officer responded to a fight at a train station in Oakland. The transit officer killed a 22-year-old named Oscar Grant in 2009. The officer testified that they feared Grant had a weapon. He reached for his stun gun, but mistakenly pulled his handgun instead. But Oscar Grant, who was shot, was laying down, face down. So that's not this cop. What happened with Daunte Wright? He was in the car about to move. There was a cop on the other side. There's danger there. So that one, he was convicted of involuntary manslaughter, sentenced to 2 years in prison. His department paid $2.8 million to Grant's daughter and mother. I got two more cases here, and that's the end of the video. In Tulsa, Oklahoma, a white volunteer sheriff's deputy named Robert Bates accidentally fired his handgun when he meant to deploy his stun gun on an unarmed black man named Eric Harris. Eric Harris was being held down by other officers. Bates apologized for it. He described it as a mistake. He said it could happen to anyone. Bates was convicted of second-degree manslaughter and sentenced for 4 years in prison. Tulsa County ultimately agreed to pay $6 million to Harris's estate to settle a federal civil rights lawsuit. That one's interesting because he was being held down by other officers. Was there a threat, or I don't know. So there's no exact comparable case that I could find fleeing with a car. And last one here, 2019, a suburban St. Louis police officer, Julia Cruz, said she meant to use her stun gun but mistakenly grabbed her service revolver and shot a suspected shoplifter, Ashley Hall, reportedly in the back. She suffered serious injuries. Cruz resigned, just like Potter had resigned, and pleaded not guilty to a pending charge of second-degree assault. The city admitted no wrongdoing and paid $2 million settlement to Hall. That's it. I just wanted to talk about the case. Hopefully it's helpful. Let me know what you think. We're waiting for the verdict, and I think at this point, the jury of her peers are going to make the case, and we have to live with that decision. Let me know what you think. Thanks a lot. Take care.